Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and today we've got another really interesting combination that we've never tested before. I've definitely wanted to test this load for quite some time now to see what it was really capable of, and we're going to really put it through the paces today. We're going to get accuracy results, we're going to get the velocities so we can calculate some energy numbers, and I've even got some ballistics gel out here to run them through as well. So we'll see what these can really do, since I think we should see some very nice results if everything works out the way I think it will. First up, we'll start with the rifle that we're going to be running today, that being my Winchester Model 70 carbine. This one's chambered in 243. I've got a Vortex Diamondback 4-12 by 40 on top, and since it is a short action carbine model, it does have a 20-inch barrel on it, so that should definitely be pretty interesting to see how these loads perform through a shorter 20-inch barrel. Overall, very nice rifle here. It is the short action carbine, so it's very nice and maneuverable. This is one of my favorite deer hunting guns usually. I've taken a number of them with it over the last 5-6 years or so, and with a good load, it's usually pretty accurate as well. So we'll see how these loads perform through it, considering they are much more of a varmint load rather than a deer hunting load. As for the rounds we're running, I picked up some of these Hornady Superformance Varmint loads. These are a 243 58 grain VMAX loading, and the back of the box says 3925 for a muzzle velocity. Will we see almost 4,000 from a 20-inch barrel like we've got in that Model 70 carbine? I kind of doubt it. Usually, from what I've seen, that 20-inch barrel is about 300 feet per second below box claim, with a lot of loads that are heavier, at least in the 90 to 100 grain range. These may be a little different. These are the Superformance line, so they are definitely up there in what I would consider kind of the laser beam category as well. And you can kind of see the drop numbers here on the back of the box too, based on their claim anyway. If you're 0.7 high at 100, you'll be dead on at 200 and only have to hold 4.5 at 300. So pretty flat shooting and pretty quick too. So I've never tested any Superformance line in 243, nor do I think I've tested any lightweight bullets below like 80 grains from this gun either. So 58 grain VMAX should be rather interesting, especially with what kind of velocity numbers we can get. I think if we see north of 3,500, that's probably going to be pretty reasonable from our setup, but they should be pretty accurate and they should be pretty devastating in the ballistics gel. But as for today's testing, like I said earlier, we're going to be running for accuracy, velocity, and we're going to do some ballistics gel as well. We'll start with our accuracy, so we'll shoot 3 groups, 3 shots each at 100 yards. These loads can definitely stretch out a little farther than that for sure, but that's what my range is set up for, is 100 yards. All of our groups will be run through the chronograph as well, so we can be getting our velocities. I will give the barrel about 10 minutes to cool off in the shade between each of our groups, so barrel heat should hopefully not be that big of an issue for us today, but these are pretty hot loads, so we'll see how that goes, but I'm going to try and mitigate it. And then once we take a look at our target, see what kind of accuracy we're getting, we'll step it over to our ballistics gel that I have set up, and we'll take a shot into that and actually pull the bullet and see what it looks like and see what our wound tracks actually do. So first up, let's get started at 100 yards with our 3 groups and see what kind of accuracy numbers we can get out of them. Alright, so now we'll take a look at our velocity numbers before we look at our target. The boss claim is 3925 from these loads. Obviously, we have a 20-inch barrel on this carbine Model 70, so I figured we were not going to see that. Usually, like I mentioned earlier, that rifle is about 300 feet per second below most box claims, and I think we were pretty much right about on that 300 feet per second down with these as well. Seem to be bouncing right at 3,600 or so, and I was hoping to see north north of 3,500. If we could get 36 out of them, I would be plenty happy with that number from this rifle anyway. But we had a high of 3642, a low of 3563. That gave us an average of 3,600 on the dot. So kind of right at the number that I was hoping to see or expecting to see. That's 325 under the box claim. Sometimes box claims are overzealous anyway, but 300 feet per second is the usual for that rifle. But we had an extreme spread of 79 with a standard deviation of 22. So at the average of 3,600 feet per second, here's your muzzle energy for a 58 grain VMAX and a 243. Obviously, that is more than enough for whatever kind of varmint or predator hunting you want to do, out to at least 200-300 yards all day long. You could probably stretch them out farther than that as well and still be perfectly fine, especially on stuff like groundhogs. So looking good there, about what I expected to see. So let's look at our target. Okay, so here we are down at our 100-yard target. We can see all three of our groups here. Obviously, we were impacting a little bit high. Considering the first group, I was aiming at the center dot and we're getting up here. And same story, I aimed at the bottom two dots there for our second, third groups, and we're still hitting high. That's not the load I'm zeroed with. It's a much lighter weight bullet, moving much faster. That gun is zeroed with some 90 grain Sierra deer hunting loads. So this is not overly surprising. If I wanted to do any kind of varmint or predator hunting, I'd probably have to quickly adjust my zero for these loads, but no big deal. Either way, we're looking at some pretty nice accuracy results overall. But we'll start up top here with our first 3-shot group, that being those 3 bullet holes up there. The bullet hole on the far right, that was our very first shot, so potentially a little bit of a cold bore shot compared to these other 2 that are pretty much touching. That was my first shot of the morning as well. Although I felt great about all of our trigger pulls today, it could have been a combination of just me, the cold bore shot, whatever the case is. It's still a pretty good group, although we may have been able to squeeze a little bit better out of it, considering the other 2 are touching anyway. But that first group is sitting right at 1.06, so just the tiniest little bit above MOA accuracy. I believe MOA is 1.04, if I'm remembering correctly. So we're right there pretty much at 1 MOA to start with. But our second group over there on the left, that's probably our best group of the day. Again, I let the rifle cool down for about 10 minutes in between each one of these groups to hopefully mitigate barrel heat. The barrel never felt more than just a little bit warm to the touch after the ends of our groups, so it should not have been an issue, but that is definitely probably our nicest group of the day, because that one is sitting right at 0.70. So a little bit under 3/4 of an inch. That's a very nice looking group. I'll take that all day long at 100 yards out of that gun. Carbine length 243, that's more of a deer hunting rifle. That's certainly going to do the job. Now moving over to our third group over here on the right, we had 2 that were pretty much touching and this one that favored a little farther to the right. Again, this right shot was our first shot of the group, and I let the barrel cool down for about 10 minutes between each of these groups, so nothing should have really changed there as far as going completely back to a cold bore shot, but that was the first shot of the group. And then we had these 2 that are just about touching each other, and that is definitely our worst group of the day at 1.37. So a little bit over 1.25 inches there. Nothing, amazing, but it would certainly still do the job. And obviously, if we can get 0.7 out of that gun like we saw over here on the left with our second group, we know that we can probably get that or maybe a little better out of an actual rifle that's designed for longer range precision accurate shooting with a longer barrel length and stuff like that can fully utilize what these loads can do. But not too bad for our setup today. We had pretty much right at 1 MOA up top here, and then we were sub MOA and a little bit over it. So I'll take that for accuracy results. But now let's head over to the ballistics gel and see what they would actually do inside of some soft tissue. All right, so now we've got some ballistics gel set up here behind me on the table, and we're going to really find out what these can do when they actually enter some soft tissue. What we've got is 2 16-inch blocks of 10% ballistics gel. These are from Clear Ballistics, and they are brand new blocks. So nice and clear, nothing in them. Should give us a very nice picture on what's going on here. As far as distance goes, based on where I have this table set up and how I'm going to have to estimate and hold a little bit low, considering that we are impacting high at 100, I'm going to walk it back to a little over 50 yards. It's like 53, 54 yards, something like that is what I can get out of distance wise this direction from where I'll be able to take a shot at. So little over 50 yards. You know, is it long range gel testing? Definitely not, but at least it will give us a little bit of distance rather than just point blanking it essentially. So I'm betting that these are going to be pretty explosive when they enter these gel blocks. So we'll see what they can really do. Of course, I've got everything out here to measure our penetration, our bullet diameter, if we have any kind of actual measurable bullet left, and a little scale and stuff so we can weigh it as well. So let's get you guys a clear view of these blocks. I'll walk it back to that little bit over 50 yards that I can take a shot from, and we'll see what these do in the gel, because it should give us some pretty impressive results. All right, it looks pretty nasty in the gel, but quickly that round gave us 36.05 through the chrono, exactly where we were earlier. But here is the muzzle energy for this particular shot. Obviously, it will be a little bit less out there past 50 yards where our gel block is, but not by a ton. And clearly, it did not matter. Because here we now have our ballistic gel, and yeah, that is a pretty nasty looking explosion right in that gel, no question about it. We definitely only needed one block. I figured that was going to be the case. These are 16-inch blocks, and the gel block ends right here, so we got probably a little shy of half of the penetration of a full 16-inch block, but everything is dumped right there at the beginning. So very nasty varmint predator load. That's what these are intended to do, is to enter pretty much shrapnel into a bunch of pieces, which this one definitely did, and not completely ruin the hide on the outside exiting either. And that would certainly do it. I'll walk you guys around here so you can see. There we have the nasty looking entrance wound. You can already see how much that blew open all over the place very quickly as it entered the gel. But here's a little better up close look at the other side. That is a nasty wound channel. Big explosion up front, and what we have left of the bullet is down here a little bit farther out as far as penetration goes, but very nasty, very devastating wound channel. That would certainly be pretty nasty on what you wanted to use it for. Now, as far as penetration goes, it looks like just a little bit over an inch is where we start really opening up everything. Everything within an inch and a half all the way out to about 4 inches is nothing but explosion. And that actual bullet base carried out to maybe just shy of 8 inches, or very close to it. So not a ton of penetration, but that's not really what these are designed for. So now we've got our wound track there. We can see how nasty it is. And let me pull that bullet out, or at least what's left of it, maybe a few of these pieces, and take a look at it. But that is a mess in the ballistics gel. Okay, well, moved up into the shade now on the back porch so we can see what's going on here. These are just some of the bigger chunks that I pulled out of that block. This bottom piece right here is the main portion of the bullet that's left. But as you can see, there's not really much of it, that's for sure. Pretty much just a jacket with a tiny little piece of lead stuck to it. All the rest of them are just fragments. That bullet did exactly what it was supposed to do, but man, does it come to pieces in the gel. It's going to be an awful lot of little pieces to pull out of there when I remelt that block. But as far as measurements go, our main chunk of bullet, kind of the farthest measurement across there, is right at 0.354. So, I mean, it obviously expanded a little bit from the 24 caliber that we started at. There's just hardly nothing left to the bullet overall. But if we throw it on the scale there, our main portion of the bullet is only a little over 9 grains. A little bit of a breeze out here, that's why the scale's jumping around a little bit. But it's a little bit over 9 grains worth of weight. But even when we add the rest of the little bullet fragments that I did recover, we're a little over 17 grains worth of total weight when we started at 58. And there is the bullet that we started with for a reference. So it clearly came completely to pieces, exactly like what it was supposed to do. So very impressive there. It did exactly what it was designed to, and that's come apart immediately. All right, well, what do we think about that performance for those Hornady Superformance Varmint loads? I'd call it pretty much exactly what it's supposed to be. From my gun, which is definitely not an ideal longer range, precision accurate varmint type of shooter. It's much more of like a 100 to 200 yard maybe deer gun. But from this setup, I'd say they did pretty well. Averaging right about MOA for accuracy. If we get the right group going, we can get a little bit under MOA. If not, it's a hair over it, which, I mean, that's perfectly fine for what it is overall. Although I can definitely see where if you got a dedicated, accurate rig that's designed for longer range shots, or it's got a heavy barrel on it or something like that, you could probably squeeze a little bit tighter, maybe half MOA groups out of these loads in the right scenarios. That's definitely plausible for sure. And even though we weren't seeing the 3925 velocity claim, 3600 from a 20-inch barrel is still getting up and moving on out. That's a 58 grain VMAX at 3600 from the muzzle. I mean, we saw what it could do at about 50 yards in a ballistic gel. I don't think I've ever had a VMAX bullet fail on me if I'm actually using it for its intended purpose. You know, groundhogs, I shot a fox with one time, and it anchors them right then and there. So they clearly do what they're designed to do, even at a little lower velocity from this shorter barrel. It made a mess in that ballistics gel that I'm going to have to clean out when I go to remelt it. But that's exactly what I expected to see out of these loads as well. So overall, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. Can't really complain too much about it. They would make for a mean little varmint round, or coyote, predator, fox round, that kind of stuff, even out of my deer gun essentially. So let me know what you guys think down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these 243 58 grain VMAX loadings from Hornady? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a combo you would ever run for different various things like varmints or predator application? And if so, if you were seeing this kind of performance right about an inch or so on average at 100, how far out would you push it? 100, 150, 200, or even farther than that? And what other stuff do you guys want to see us test, whether it be in 243 or other loads, other calibers, whatever the case would be, for accuracy or ballistics gel testing? Let me know what y'all might want to see. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox, where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.